Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we're gonna be talking about Eunhwa, and in order to do that, we're gonna have to talk about her teammates as well from Absolute. That is Bestie and Eunhwa, and you're going to see why that is in a little bit, but we're gonna follow the same structure as usual. We're gonna go over her skills, and then we're gonna go over some of the teams. Then we're gonna see how she performs in buffing those teams as a B1 unit, and then finally I'm gonna give my thoughts and opinion on Eunhwa herself and sort of this triple banner situation as well. So stick around for that, and let's get into it. Here we have the skills. We have skill 1, which activates at the start of battle. You have the effect 1, which increases the damage taken by all enemies on the screen for 10 seconds by 3.9%. Now you have effect 2 here, which she recovers 2.3% of her max HP every second for 10 seconds, and this affects all allies, and it has a 20-second downtime because of this recurrent interval of 30 seconds. Now lastly, she gains an undispellable taunt for all enemies for the entire battle. Now here we have skill 2, which is called LT formation. Now remembering this name is kind of important, especially when we're going to be talking about Eunhwa next week, and I'll get into a little bit of why that is a little bit later, but for now just keep that in mind. And so here she enters LT formation. Now what this does is affects all allies from the same squad, so this applies only to Absolute members, right? So only Bestie, Eunhwa, and Eunhwa. This increases their critical damage by 23.5% for the duration that LT formation is applicable. Now the second effect is that it affects all allies, and it increases their projectile explosion damage by 2.3% continuously, again as long as she is in LT formation. Now here is where we get to this other part, which is, as you will see, the majority of the skill 2, and as you can see, this talks about AS formation. Now what this is a skill that Eunhwa possesses, and so in order to activate this entire part of her skill 2, you need to have Eunhwa on the team, and she needs to burst to apply this AS formation from her skill 2. And as you can see, this is the majority of Eunhwa's kit, which means that a lot of it is not activated currently in the current state of the game. So what we have here is the first effect, which affects all allies. It increases her true damage by 31% continuously. Then you have the second effect, which affects all allies again, which increases the projectile explosion damage by 3%, which is in addition to the first 2.3% right here. And then you have the third effect, which affects only Eunhwa, which deactivates the exposure condition, which means that when Eunhwa is on the team, she no longer has a taunt that is continuous. So you can kind of turn off the taunt and let everybody else get hit, so that Eunhwa doesn't really die, because taunt on Eunhwa is not that is continuous, is not really beneficial. It actually is a little bit of a detriment for her, because all the damage is directed at her and she just does not have the healing to out heal all the damage. So this is actually a buff, although it might not seem like it. Now the last effect right here, effect 4, affect self, and the recurring interval of environment setup goes down by 20 seconds, which is referring to this right here, which means that her 2.3% recovery for everybody is active for the entire battle without any other conditions. So what that does is that she loses the taunt, so everybody else gets hit too, but she is able to heal every single second for the entire battle. And then we get to burst skill at the end, affects all allies. She enters battlefield formation, which raises everybody's attack by 40% of her own attack. This is for all allies. Now the second condition is only for her when she is in environment setup status from skill 1. And what this does is, here in effect 1, the damage taken multiplier of environment setup is scaled by 100%, which means it's doubled, which is almost 8% damage taken when she is in burst. And then her effect 2 raises the potency of HP restored by 29%. for all allies, which means that she will heal quite a bit for the duration of her burst, 30% or 29% of her HP every second for 10 seconds, and then after the burst is done, it will revert back to doing the 2.3%. So basically she heals all the time. However, as of right now, a lot of this kit is not functional due to the fact that Eunhwa is not out yet. However, I am going to proceed and review her at the time of release. I think that's fair, and I guess I will sort of make an update in the Eunhwa review as well to see how Emma is affected by Eunhwa and how that affects her placement. So with that, let's get into some of the teams. So for the teams, I just wanted to keep it simple and kind of see what effect Emma has on the team DPS. Obviously, she's not at her full potential right now, so I didn't want to overcomplicate things. So I'm basically using Crown for every single test. I'm switching out between Emma, Little Mermaid, and Leader, and basically testing those different B1s with Laplace, Ice Maiden, and Rappi, and then Helm is the off-burst buffer for the team. So pretty standard, pretty simple stuff. I don't want to overcomplicate things for now, since Emma mostly buffs explosives and true damage, but however the true damage buff is inaccessible to us right now. So with that, let's see how she performed. Alright, so here we have the damage table. Obviously, as I already stated, we got the Laplace Ice Maiden with Helm buffing, with Emma right here doing 1.883 billion damage. So this is going to be the 100%, the control group right here. Now I replaced Emma with Leader, same team. Obviously here we got 2.2 billion, gaining 17.8%. Now we gotta keep in mind that the only thing that Emma provides for the team currently at the time of the release is the enemy damage debuff, the attack buff during her burst, the healing obviously, and the projectile explosion buff. No other buffs are present because Eunhwa is not released yet. So currently we only got the generic attack buff, which is applicable to every single unit, and the very small projectile explosion buff. We got no true damage buff or anything like that. So Leader obviously is doing a lot more here, doing 117% like I said. Then we switch to Little Mermaid here, and this goes up even more. A lot of that has to do with the fact that Little Mermaid is doing a lot more damage than both of these B1s. So we got 147% damage. And then right here, this is a slightly different team with obviously with Rappi as the DPS, and then Ice Maiden doing 100% with 2.5 billion. And then when you switch Emma to Leader, this goes up to 3.1 billion, doing 21% more damage. Now, so this is pretty simple. Obviously, you can see that these DPSs don't really go together on one team. You wouldn't really put them together. This is not really a recommendation on team building, but rather it is just here to see how these two will be buffed by Emma, right? Since all three of these units have explosion damage, which is buffed by Emma, and the attack buff applies to everybody. So this is more of a proof of concept for how good Emma is currently, not really a how good of a team this will be in general type of deal. So anyway, so moving on, at this current state, the investment for Emma is pretty low. I would not recommend really investing in her too much. Skill 1, level 1, just leave it. It has barely any effect at all on the team. The second skill, same thing. And then for the third one, you get the generic attack buff, which is beneficial for the team regardless of which unit it is. And it also increases the healing that you get. So if you plan to use her, I would recommend going to 7 on her burst. Other than that, leave them at level 1. Now for the overload lines, in general, they're not really important for support units. So if you just want to not overload them at all, or just, you know, overload once and get random stuff, that's fine too. But if you want to get more out of Emma, Emma does quite a bit of damage, not as much as Little Mermaid. It's not even close to Little Mermaid. However, she does about the same damage as Crown, and so investing in her offensive capabilities may be beneficial to you. So this attack buff obviously will help her do more damage. However, it also will help her give more attack to the team, so that's why I put it up top. Ammo is good for her to keep on doing damage throughout the fight, and then if you are planning to build her for doing damage, I would recommend getting some elemental damage as well. And now that that's over, I'll give you my final thoughts on the unit. Obviously, I'm gonna give you my thoughts at the time of release, at the time of review. This is a trash unit. Emma is not providing barely anything for the team. There's many other healers that provide healing, right? The only thing that she really provides for the team is that mediocre attack buff during her burst, which is cool. However, right now, she's not worth pulling for and not worth building in general, and this will change probably next week when we get Eunhwa, because like I've been saying, Emma and Eunhwa are both dependent on each other. So Eunhwa activates Emma's kit and Emma activates Eunhwa's kit, right? So they kind of both need each other. And also, as you will see, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. In about 2 weeks when Vesti drops, you will see that Vesti is also dependent on both Emma and Eunhwa. So if you're planning to pull for Emma, you should plan to pull for Eunhwa, and vice versa. And if you're planning to pull for Vesti, you also should plan to pull for both Emma and Eunhwa, right? So it's kind of a 3 for 3 or 0, right? Or nothing. So either go all in or don't get any of them, because without each other they are mediocre at best. So next week when Eunhwa releases, I will revisit Emma briefly and kind of see how she will perform then, when, you know, most of her kit is activated, and then I will kind of update both Eunhwa guide and slightly update the Emma guide. So as of right now, I'm placing Emma somewhere around a B, maybe a C tier even. If you don't plan to pull the other units, do not pull Emma unless you just want to get her because you like Emma, because she is not really that great. And now a little bit off topic, I guess, kind of on topic, kind of off topic, is that now we're getting 3 units. Not only is it 3 units, but at basically the same time, right? We're getting triple banners in a single event. Basically, back to back to back, we're gonna get 3 new units that are fairly highly anticipated. And not only that, they are dependent on each other, where some of them, half of their kit does not even work without the other units, and makes them pretty much unusable if you consider it a meta thing. So I'm kind of worried for the future whether this practice will become standard and we will be getting these type of units more often, where all 3 units will depend on each other and they'll be back to back to back, maybe even 1% banners, something like that, around, you know, the New Year's update or, you know, anniversary update, something like that. But I guess time will tell. All we can do is wait and see. But that's gonna do it for me. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.